sparrow, sparrow, get well while I breathe. I hope and hear a sparrow that well.
The Tower Tarot Card and the Shadow of 9/11. Actually, this audio essay could instead be titled September the 11th and the Shadow of the Tower Tarot Card, as either of these events could be a somewhat spooky echo or mirror reflection of the other. Though which one truly came first is a bit like asking which came first out of the goose or the gander. No matter whether on the micro, metaphysical, quantum level, the imagery of the Tarot Tower card was somehow influenced by the then future event of 9/11, or vice versa, the shadow aspects of the connection between September the 11th and the Tarot is as mysterious as it is somewhat unsettling. September the 11th, 2001 is truly one of those dates that will live in the collective conscious mind bank of tragedy, just as people remember where they were when they heard of the death of Princess Diana, the assassination of John F. Kennedy, and even Pearl Harbor. The notorious date 9/11 will forever be etched on the woeful doom and gloom tombstone of horrific global events. Or, to borrow the words of Franklin D. Roosevelt when he spoke in 1941 of Pearl Harbor, a date which will live in infamy, is also a very apt description of 9/11. The Rider-Waite Tarot and religious imagery. Historians and scholars do not quite agree about the origins of the tarot. Perhaps the tarot first came into being in Egypt or Italy or France. This ancient form of divination by cards may go as far back as the 14th century, or, for all we know, the tarot cartomancy system may go back even further than the 1300s. However, we can reasonably assume that because the ancient tarot encompassed several different belief systems and religions, including Judaism, Kabbalah, and Christianity, the images on the cards, especially those of the Rider-Waite-Smith variety, are rooted in fables, indigenous folk stories, and biblical writings, etc. For instance, there's the Lover's card, which includes well-known imagery based on the creation Garden of Eden, Adam and Eve story. The Lover's card in the Rider-Waite Tarot depicts a naked man and woman who most scholars agree are Adam and Eve, whose story of original sin is told in the first few books of Genesis. In the background is an archangel which serves to remind us that we always have a choice when it comes to right and wrong. Just behind Adam, who stands on the right-hand side, is a tree in full bloom, and just behind Eve, who stands on the left-hand side, is an apple tree, and wrapped around its trunk and foliage is the serpent. The Devil Tarot card in Rider-Waite-Smith decks is also seemingly based on the biblical depiction of that old devil called Beelzebub, also known as Lucifer. The similarity to the horned and hoofed part human, part beast devil in Jewish and Christian mythological art to the Devil Tarot card illustrated by Pamela Coleman Smith is glaringly obvious. Perhaps it's not so obvious as the Lover's Tarot card and the Devil Tarot card, but the imagery of the Chariot Tarot card could have taken inspiration in Pamela Coleman Smith's mind from the biblical Pharaoh, who may have been Ramesses. We see an ornate carriage, or indeed, let's call it what it is, a chariot, being pulled by a black sphinx and a white sphinx. The chariot card draws forth at a rapid pace, but it may also be in pursuit of a quarry, just as the Pharaoh at the time of the Exodus was in pursuit of Moses and the Israelites. Another Rider-Waite tarot card that may be a graphic echo based on a Bible story, or indeed Bible stories, is the Magician card. There are several characters in the Bible who could be thought of as having supernatural magician-like powers, including Moses, whose wand or walking staff turns into a snake, and even Yeshua, aka Jesus Christ, who famously turned water into wine. Did Pamela Coleman Smith think of either Moses or Jesus Christ when she depicted the magician with his arm outstretched to the heavens and haloed with the sign of infinity? The Towers of Status. Towers, rather phallic in their design, have always evoked symbolic associations with the masculine energies of power, might, advancement, and wealth. From the 57-meter tall Leaning Tower of Pisa in Italy, which was constructed in the 12th century, as well as the 62-meter high minaret of Jam in the Sharak district of Afghanistan, also built in the 12th century, to the 42 meters tall 3 pagodas in the Yunnan province in China, built in the 9th century. There are even more recent tower structures, such as the 553-meter high CN Tower in Toronto, Canada, built in the 1970s, as well as the Burj Khalifa in Dubai, in the United Arab Emirates, constructed in the early 2000s, which to date is the tallest building in the world, standing from tip to toe at 830 meters. And of course, the very recent 310-meter high Shard skyscraper tower building in London, the UK, completed in 2012. Magnificent landmarks such as these, both old and modern, add an unspoken visual statement of prosperity and affluence to established developed countries and developing countries that are on the economic rise. The Tower of Babel as the forerunner of the Tower Tarot card. Perhaps the most famous tower of all is the biblical and mythical Tower of Babel, which gives an account of the rise and fall of human societal evolution and serves to explain why there is such a wide diversity of human languages. In a nutshell, the story of the Tower of Babel goes a little something like this. Originally, since the time of Adam and Eve, humankind spoke only one shared common language. Anyway, human beings started to explore and wander. They literally went forth and multiplied. Furthermore, our forefathers and foremothers started to advance in the field of architecture and design. They progressed from building structures out of stone to building with bricks and an early form of mortar. Ancient supercities were created, and humans had become clever enough to construct buildings which had more than one level. Thus, the idea was born to erect a stately tower which would dwarf all other structures in height and esteem. A tower so tall that it would surpass the clouds and reach the heavens. As pride comes before a fall, Bible lore has it that this angered Yahweh, aka the prevalent God of the Old Testament. Hence, Yahweh punished humankind for assuming they could encroach on his heavenly authority, and therefore muddled up the foremost channel of human communication by causing the peoples of the world to speak in many different languages, which were and still are as gobbledygook to a non-native speaker. Henceforth, from the age-old metaphorical tale of the Tower of Babel up till now, there has been, to the negative affirmative, a collective association between towers and arrogant over-ambitiousness, thunder, lightning, destruction, breakdown, collapse, and even fire and furnace. This dark negation is also rather descriptive of the Tower Tarot card in all of its gory, fearsome evoking imagery. Tarot cards as a shadow aspect of feared occurrences. In the non-tarot world, tarot cards get a bad rap due to an uneasiness of the shadow aspect of human nature and occurrences which are commonly held to be negative on a macro and micro level. Many people have a fear of death, and so tarot is avoided due to a fear of the death card appearing in a reading. The Ten of Swords is another gruesome tarot card. Understandably, many people do not feel comfortable at what a slain man laying on the ground with 10 swords all about his dead body means for them and their life within the context of a tarot card's reading. The Tower Tarot card can represent the shadow eventuality of what has been built up can be torn down, or if you climb a monumental structure of great height, you can tumble off it. The Rider-Waite Tarot card shows a crown at the top of a fortress-like tower being toppled by a lightning bolt from the sky, and debris as well as people are terrifyingly depicted in free fall, obviously meeting a devastating end. Unfortunately, life isn't all wishy-washy and airy-fairy. Sometimes the mediocre prince isn't worthy of the beautiful princess. The unsinkable cast-iron ship of dreams that God himself couldn't sink ended up on the seabed. Sometimes the fairy tale transmutes to a nightmare. The once great and magnificent tower is now but a crumbling, steaming heap of bricks and mortar. Tarot and the foreshadowing of events in the distant and near future. The tarot is probably the most ancient and mysterious divinatory cartomancy system there is. Divination of all kinds is a way of tapping into all that has been, all that is, and all there will ever be. Now, this is not to say that the tarot or other oracles will allow even the greatest seer to glimpse all of the past, present, and future. For, if such divine knowledge was given to us, we would surely become like the very people who greatly hacked God off back in the times of ancient Babylon. Nevertheless, the tarot and other methods of divination open up a portal to the time-space continuum of the universal human balance of probability here on planet Earth. In the social, psychological, sociological, and political spheres of existence, both on the individual, micro level, and the mass, macro level. peering through the pictorial tarot window of all that has been, is, and will be, surely captures an akashic record or supernatural impression of events that may occur far, far, far off in the distant future. The Tower Tarot card as an omen of September the 11th, 2001. The most well-known depiction of the Tower Tarot card and its aforementioned imagery was designed by Pamela Colman Smith in the early 20th century. The Twin Towers, which stood so boldly in New York, were built in the 1970s, and 9/11 happened in 2001, nearly 100 years after the Pamela Colman Smith's tarot deck was first published by Waite. The imagery of this card that now provokes feelings of associated terror in some was created by Pamela Colman Smith at a time that rendered 2001 as being far away in the distant future. The day after the terrible happenings of September the 11th, 2001, when I lived in Dorset, I visited one of the best friends I've ever had, African George, also known as Lowell, a qualified teacher and God-loving Christian man. Anyway, I remember that one of the first things he said in regards to the terrible attack on the Twin Towers and the peoples therein was that the events and images captured on still and moving images were disturbingly and uncannily reminiscent of the Tower Tarot card. The Tower Tarot card and the shadow of 9/11 are virtually synonymous with one another in the minds of those who both vividly recall the footage and photographs of 9/11 and also have esoteric knowledge of the tarot system. The North Tower, World Trade Center Tower 1, which had a large antenna as its crowning glory and proudly stood in Lower Manhattan, New York City, at 417 meters tall, was the first tower to be slammed into by a plane at 8:46 a.m. Eastern Time Zone. One cannot help but be struck by how eerily similar that scene of devastation looked to the Tower Tarot card. Upon contact between the plane and the North Twin Tower, the impact obviously caused a massive explosion. The scene, which can be replayed at the touch of a smart touchscreen or the click of a mouse, is certainly reminiscent of the explosive-looking lightning bolt striking the tower depicted on the Tower Tarot card. Again, avid tarot enthusiasts the world over who switched on their televisions to watch the shocking live broadcast of the North Tower engulfed by smoke and obviously fire, unwittingly became witnesses, as did millions of other people watching, to the ferocity of a plane plunging into the South Tower or World Trade Center 2 at 9:03 a.m. Eastern Time Zone. The South Tower stood at 415.1 meters high. For a second time during the unfolding of the horrific events on September the 11th, 2001, tarot readers were once again reminded of the picture on the tower card that shows lightning hitting the ancient tower with such force that it dismantles the crowning glory of the tower itself. The heartbreaking scenes of desperate people fleeing the fiery furnace that the Twin Towers in their violent demise became, by leaping to their deaths, was so sad, it was so chilling, that it has left an undeniable impression on the psyches of countless New Yorkers and many millions of others in relation to the association between towers and tragedy. Most people will agree that the explicit images and footage of people during 9/11 frantically jumping from the two towers to evade burning to death, though nevertheless knowing that they would still surely meet their deaths, bear an unbearably tragic and uncanny likeness to the illustrated people falling from the Tower Tarot card. The correlation between the meaning of the Tower card and the general feeling tone of September the 11th, 2001, then and now. The similarity between the Tower card and 9/11 may lend weight to those who denigrate the tarot as being the devil's picture book. But hey, instead of perceiving the glass to be half empty, how about looking at the glass through the lens of it being half full? What if the tarot is a divine, ethereal, worldly and universal picture book of what to do and what not to do? The tarot obviously isn't suggesting that one throws oneself off a high building. Unfortunately, the extremity of the fire engulfing the Twin Towers was possibly the only sane way of escaping on that terrible day. The Tarot Tower card represents chaos, destruction, unexpected and sudden change, conflict, ruination, the crumbling of structures, what goes up may well come down, and nightmare scenarios. These various meanings, which denote the vibratory aspect of the Tower Tarot card, are plainly negative, and it is also very curious that these said meanings for the Tower card also descriptively sum up the general feeling tone of September the 11th, 2001. Perhaps pre-9/11, the Tower Tarot card spoke to us in a way which harshly suggested on a personal and individual level what may well occur if we didn't alter our course in terms of thinking, expectation, and action. Maybe post 9/11, on a more widespread geopolitical macro level, the Tower Tarot card stridently implores humanity to abandon war as the solution to geopolitical problems and to instead return to golden rule politics. Tarot enthusiasts who also identify themselves as being 9/11 truthers or being sympathetic to the 9/11 truth movement and ardently or passively pursue or wish the truth to be discovered as to what might really have happened on that bright and blue but very, very dark September day in New York may now perceive that the Tarot Tower card encourages us to tear down and question without remorse or fear possible political deep state trickery, deception and collusion, and to seek the lightning bolt of truth wherever it may shine its luminescent light. Spooky tarot action at a distance and 9/11. Now, this essay isn't a lesson in quantum physics, but in a vague nutshell, spooky action, according to Albert Einstein, is when two photons travel separately at different points in time, even light years away from each other, but are mysteriously linked. They spookily become entangled. Hence, there may be hidden elements of reality, though Einstein contended that even hidden elements of reality are somehow determined by physical law. Can spooky action at a distance be applied to the metaphysical, transcendental plane? If the Rider-Waite Tarot Tower card had angels encircling the tower as part of its imagery, would perhaps a strange, Einsteinian, spooky action at a distant miracle on that sunny September New York day in 2001 have somehow happened? The Tower Tarot card and the shadow of 9/11 begs the question, which came first, the chicken or the egg? Was September the 11th, after a fashion mysteriously shaped by the Tarot Tower card? Or was the imagery of the Rider-Waite Tower Tarot card a premonition of the 11th of September? Which came first, galaxies or black holes? Quote by Anon. There are more questions than there are answers about 9/11.